Welcome to Shaping Stories, a glass artist podcast. Will
Okay.
you introduce yourself? What's your name?
My name is Adrienne, better known as Glass Happy. A lot of people have me saved in their phones as Bacon Face. Also,
Mm.
yeah.
And where are you from and where do you live now?
I'm currently in, I guess, like mid coast, Maine, about 40 minutes north of Portland. And I am originally from Salem, Massachusetts.
And what do you like outside of glass?
Cats. A
Mm.
big fan of cats. Yeah. I really like cooking, sunsets, sunrises. I've been someone's mom for 22 years, and that's been pretty phenomenal.
Wow. And all right, let's go into the glass part of your life. And can you tell us when and how you started doing glass?
Okay, so I was sort of like late to the game, I guess, compared to a lot of people. I was 27 when I started blowing glass. It wasn't necessarily like super intentional. I've been known to say that like glass saved my life. I was in a rough spot, and some friends who were glass blowers took me in, and that's just basically how it started. I didn't really have a lot of other stuff happening for me. Indy was 5 at the time, my kid. Childcare is really expensive, and it just sort of made sense. It allowed me to work from home. It allowed me to be there all the time. So, yeah, I mean, it allowed me to be someone's mom, which is really cool. I was someone's mom making art in my garage for the most part.
Where were you and what was the date of this? And who was teaching you?
Sure. Okay. So, the guy that I learned from, his name is Keith. And I don't think he blows glass anymore, but he and I have been friends for over a decade at that point. And then Sable Hayes was part of this. She was like the original glass blower in that house. And they were the friends that took me in. And so that's how it started. We were in Lanesville, which is a fishing village in Gloucester, Massachusetts, on this little island that's like connected by a land bridge. It's like a cape in the northern part of Massachusetts. Beautiful, beautiful spot. And then after I moved up the street and still worked for him. Oh God, that was probably my favorite place I've ever lived, was that little village. And then after that, I moved to Maine, moved to similar area of Maine, and I had a home studio there for a while before moving to Colorado, and then
Hold
back to
on,
the East Coast.
back up. Pause.
Okay.
We need to know more.
Okay.
What kind of work were you making for him? What was it
So
like? You
it's
were working on a torch right away?
yeah, so yes, I cried a lot in my first 2 weeks because I was suddenly like in this place where my full-time job and only income was glass blowing all of a sudden with a child, that which is like not ideal. And that's not usually how people do it. People usually maybe like take some lessons or there's different ways, but it's not usually full time. This is your only income. So within 2 weeks, I was making really, really cheap, tiny little kind of puff and chuck type hand pipes that we were selling to stores. I feel like they were being kind to buy them from us, but they were buying them for sure. That first year, I mean, I didn't do this on my own, but I did this with him for the first couple of years. That first year, he went on the road basically vending at music festivals for the entire season. And mostly, I mean, we would go home in between the shows to do laundry, I guess, but we had to blow glass at the shows. So we were blowing glass outside under tents live the whole time because otherwise, how are we going to make enough stuff while we're on the road? And that's an adventure in itself. I remember being really nervous, like having so many eyes on me all the time, being a beginner, just like being perceived. And then all of my friends like reassuring me, like, we're at a music festival. None of these people know anything. You look like you're doing magical stuff. You know what I mean? Like they have no idea that you don't know what you're doing. And so that was helpful. But I also got a lot of experience like having people watch me all the time. And that was fun. But I don't know, certainly you can go to music festivals and work at them at all ages. But I was like, I felt old. I was tired. That was a lot. It was a lot for me. I was almost 30. Your body starts to hurt pretty soon after that. So that didn't become lifestyle for me. I started making pendants. I guess this is how Bacon Face was born. I started making pendants because we had some shows where you couldn't sell functional work out front. They had rules against it. So for these shows, we had to make a lot of non-functional art. So pendants, marbles, jewelry, little vases, bud jars. I made a lot of pendants during that time. I was still a very beginner. I didn't really know what I was doing. When I started making pendants for these shows, I remember like it felt familiar almost. I mean, I guess I was remembering it from the future instead of remembering something from the past. But I remember like spinning and making pendants small, not hollow. And I remember it just feeling like really familiar. And I said to him, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to make pendants. God bless him. He sort of scoffed at me and said, You'll never be able to support yourself making pendants. Don't tell me I can't, you know? So that's was probably part of my motivation for making that happen. But also I just enjoyed it. That's just what I wanted to do. But we were making pendants for the show for Strange Creek in Massachusetts. And he's a really good gardener. This man grows some of the best produce I've ever had in my entire life. So he's not really much of a pendant maker, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But he showed me like this pendant that he had made, and I looked at it and I said, that sort of looks like bacon because it looked like it was like abstract, but like abstract bacon, right? And he said, yeah, it's supposed to be bacon. And I was just like, oh no, no, I'm sorry. So at the time, Indy was 4 or 5, and I was making a lot of faces on her plates with her food, and like definitely bacon face, but like whatever I had. Man, it's so sloppy. I still have a photo of it, the first one. But I whipped up this little this little flat bacon cane, and my eyes were really bubbly because I hadn't figured out cadmiums or even like whatever white I had at that point. And I didn't even make it on solid. I made it on hollow, and I didn't even lens it out the right way, but it didn't matter because you could still tell what it was. And Bacon Face was born. And I sort of like, I held it up. It was still hot. And he looked at it and he pointed and he was like, Bacon Face. So like he definitely named it for me. And then it was like a really big hit at the music festivals that summer and the next summer. I just kept making them. And there's definitely a crossover between the glass scene that we have and the music festivals, but it's not the same thing. The following year, I was on Facebook adding as many glass people as I could find. That was like my in at that point to like, trying to get into the scene. And I didn't really know who anybody was. And Ben Burton is so nice. What a kind human being. I just messaged a bunch of people that looked like they knew what they were doing and was like asking about tools, where to get them, like tubing. So the guy I learned from he taught me how to do some stuff, but he didn't really teach me how to do it on my own. I was asking a lot of questions, and Ben was really kind and took a lot of time out of his day, whatever day it happened to be that I was bothering him. He definitely like gave me links to whatever I needed. He was really sweet. By the time I realized who he was, I was sort of like embarrassed. Not that all humans' time isn't valuable, but like, it's Bertoni. So I messaged him and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know who you were. Sorry for bothering you. And he, of course, was like, well, what do you mean? Who am I? It's Ben. At one point that following winter, I couldn't get oxygen for a while. We had an ice storm. I couldn't get oxygen for almost a month. And then when we finally got oxygen, I made a bacon face. I hadn't posted anything like that online before. I was in a glass group at the time. It was like a friendly group. And they asked me, like, what did you make now that you finally got oxygen? And I said, oh, I made a bacon face. And I said, well, post it. What does that even mean? And so I posted it and the group went nuts for it. And they were like, you need to post this on your regular page. So I posted it on my regular page, and Tomomi Honda, KGB, Marble Slinger, like a bunch of people that were big names that at that point I had heard of interacted with it. And I felt all kinds of dopamine. I was so excited. And so I messaged Ben and I said, Ben, you're not the only famous person liking my glass pics. Cause he had just been kind because he was like my internet friend. My glass wasn't very good. He was just being very nice. So he said, what do you mean? Who liked your glass pic? And I said, Marble Slinger. And he said, which one? What do you mean? So I sent him a link, and I guess to one up his friend or whatever, he shared it for me. He shared it on his own page. And it was like having my book on Oprah. I had 10 orders within a few hours. It was really amazing. He helped me out at a later date by including me in that Claw Club collab sort of ordeal when he had his first solo show at Goosefire. And I got to be in Hot Breath, which was amazing. So I guess that is a long story, but it's the story of how I became glassblower into, like the break that I got that was really helpful.
When you separated from working in Mass, where did you go from there?
I was in Richmond, Maine, I
Mhm.
was living like on a pond lake. I don't know, it was long, not that wide.
And then
And I
you
had a home
kinda
studio there, and I was there for 4 years, I think, before I went out west.
okay, and then you go to Colorado.
And then I went to Colorado. Yeah.
And you went to Colorado for work or, like, because you have an opportunity there
Yeah,
or
both, it was, um, I don't know. I've moved like 40 times total. Moved a lot as a kid too. Like I just am naturally nomadic. It's always time to move, you know?
and you did glass in Colorado, like, you brought your glass stuff out there and
I
then
did.
up and
Yep.
kept going
Yep.
right
So
away?
I was originally up in Cold Creek Canyon. So that's up in like North Golden, like near Boulder, up in the mountains. And there was a home studio up there. And then I moved down to Lakewood, which is like a suburb of Denver. It's like right outside of Denver. And I had a home studio there as well.
And when you're making and selling your glass, are you mostly using the internet as your platform, or are you selling to, like, head shops? Or are you going to events and selling to
So
wholesalers, or
yeah, so I've done a few events. I've done some like retail sort of craft fair type events or like street fair type things. Obviously, I've done some music festivals. I've done some trade shows. I would say that the bulk of my sales have been online, though, for sure. I mean, I'm really spoiled in some ways, and this is certainly one of them. Most of my career has just been passing sales. Like before you had to be an influencer, because I'm not really good at that yet, but before you had to be an influencer and you could just post work up, maybe with a few words. The trends were easier to follow at that point, like it's how many hashtags or what you're supposed to say in them or something, like instead of whatever it is now. I feel like a boomer, it's fine. um, but before, it was super complicated. I just worked on my social media presence. Oh, my life was really nice. I lived in the woods on the water, and I would go out to my studio and like just kind of make whatever I wanted all day. Whatever I wanted to make, it didn't matter. And then the next morning, I would open my kiln and take photographs of everything I had made the day before and then like list them on my Instagram. And then they would just sell immediately one by one. Like that was really easy. While and then I would just make whatever I wanted all day again. I would sell to stores, but I didn't for most of my career, I didn't have to source them. They would just contact me through my social media. I have to say, like, it's a good thing that I had that privilege because I can't handle more than that. I'm an artist. I'm not necessarily a business person. I'm glad that that was easy for me because I probably wouldn't have stuck with it for as long.
did you do any other kind of work besides glass? Like, how did you get the skills of even, like, being able to list things and communicate things and manage the money? Did you have
I mean, I worked some office jobs before I was glassblower. My favorite job ever was barista. I love making coffee for people. I really liked that one. I unfortunately can't support a child on it. This sounds terrible, right? But I was a bill collector for years. I did commercial collections. I was kind. I wasn't mean. I was calling businesses. I got some like professional experience there, I suppose. But I mean, just not really. I just sort of had to figure it out. It just wasn't that hard to list things before. I feel like it's gotten more complicated in the past decade.
and then why did you leave Colorado?
Personal reasons, I guess. My life kind of I didn't have much keeping me there at that point. I missed the ocean. Like I missed the East Coast. When I was on the way home, there's a gas station here called Cumberland Farms. And we had them where I went to high school. And on the way home, I stopped to use the bathroom at a Cumberland Farms and I washed my hands in the bathroom. And the smell of the soap, it's the same exact soap they used 30 years ago. So, like, and I just started crying because there's something about olfactory and like the way that the microbiome, you can smell it outside. Like, it smells different here than anywhere else. And what my nervous system did when I got home was like incredible. I'm glad to be here, but I'll probably move back to Colorado. My kid's there. She's grown now, but like I would like to be near her.
And when you moved back here, you set up shop and kept going with the same thing?
So when I first came back, I was in Pennsylvania for a couple years, and that was like a dark time in my life. I was blowing glass full time there, though. And oddly enough, even though my life circumstances were really hard there, my art really blossomed there. Like I think that my style became all the way cohesive when I was there. I was like, it really bloomed. I was really excited about the work that I was putting out, but my
So
health plummeted. So I
you're one
haven't
of
really.
those artists that makes good work when she's miserable.
I think so. I mean, not even that.
You're like a tortured artist.
I I took honestly, I took a psych med to help with what I was going through in my regular life there, and it was one that plays with your dopamine, and it made my art amazing. Thank you, Big Pharma, because like it really helped my art. Like I think that was like a big catalyst for that. So it was like the misery, but it was the help that I got for the misery. And I only took it temporarily, maybe 6 months, but the creativity that me feeling better suddenly, I think, like freed up in me and allowed me to do that. And it may have just been out of desperation. Like I had to make it better and more cohesive to like make money to get out of where I was, but my health plummeted after that. So when I came back to Maine, and I've been here for 2 years now, I've only been blowing glass part-time. And a few months ago, the studio where I was very lucky to set up sort of like became unavailable to me or to anybody, I guess, I think. So my work has been, I mean, all my equipment has been in my basement. I'm hoping to do something, but because of my health, I can't do it full time anymore. It'll be 16 years Christmas Eve. So it was Christmas Eve 2009 was the first time I ever got behind the torch. And I made icicles for family members for like Christmas the next day. I still have the first icicle I ever made. It's like the first thing I ever melted ever. I own it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it to my kid, but I have it. But I guess I'm holding it on to her, holding it onto it for her. Yeah. Do you still have the first thing you made?
I was just wondering that. I think my mom or my stepdad would probably have it. It was probably like some weird like bubble.
I have the first pipe I ever made too. It's awful. It's so bad, but it's like usable, you know,
Yeah.
like once maybe before you have to clean it.
So you're at like a crossroads in your life, but what I keep telling you anyway, and but you already led up to this, so everyone's thinking it is you have this big, beautiful body of work that you can create, right? How did you do that? Like breaking it down, you have functional stuff and then you have pendants and you have a very specific color palette that like anybody that looks at your work
It's
knows.
obvious that it's mine. Not very few. I don't know anybody else who uses the colors together that I do the way that I do.
How did you come up with that? Let's start from there. How did you come up with the color palette? Did it just
It
come?
happened organically and it happened as more colors became available to us. I mean, I started blowing glass 16 years ago. We didn't have what we have now. Um, but I remember, like, how a lot of beginners are afraid of the more difficult to work colors, like opaques and cadmiums and stuff. And I think it was probably in my second year. And I just decided, like, I don't care. I'm not going to be afraid of these colors because I have a vision and I want to use bright colors that, like, sort of contrast and complement each other. Um, and so I just like forced myself to learn how to work them. I will say that I'm fortunate because the beginner torch that I still use, I use a surface mix red max, and both uh, flames are surface mix, and it's really soft. They're actually really, really easy to work cadmiums raw on. It's a very easy torch to do that with. And the way that I run my pressure, on my oxygen and my gas, like the ratio there makes it easier as well. And I just learned that over time. I've never actually taken a glass class before. I've had friends like teach me things here and there. Like I did apprentice somebody, but the guy I apprenticed didn't really know what he was doing. He sort of was like a beginner himself, with his skill level. Sable taught me a lot of really awesome techs. Like she is far from beginner. She's been like well over 20 years. She's amazing. And she and I have been friends for a long time. So she's taught me a few things. Just a few like good friends that know what they're doing. Like I've come over, I've gone to their shops and people have shown me stuff, but I've never had any like sort of formal education. So most of it's been trial and error. Um, and then I don't know when China came out with those milky, beautiful like import tubing, like that color. Oh God, I love it. And it's not necessarily the most compatible with the the colors that I want to draw on top of it. And so I have like there's a percentage that I know of my work that's not going to make it. and I just don't care because I like those colors together. So I think maybe some people aren't willing to do that. Or maybe they, I don't know. I don't know. I get a lot of compliments about the color palette. I'm surprised that I don't see it used more elsewhere.
And then a lot of your designs behind beyond the bacon face, we've got
Hmm.
a lot of plant designs, right? And then excuse me, but I'm not that kind of nerd, but like a lot of like cartoony, like other.
Sort of, yeah. So I can only draw things so detailed on my torch as well, and I am like limited by my tools. Even though I like my tools, I'm not complaining. But so, I'm not going to be able to do like super detailed disc clips or anything like that with the tools that I'm using. So that sort of did dictate my style as well. So it is sort of like I do that relief drawing. I like basically pull stringers of various sizes and colors and use them as if they're like clay little paint brushes almost, and then I use a hand torch to like melt in my edges so we don't have sharp edges, but I'm not melting the whole thing. Um, I make little cupcakes. Those are one of my favorite things to make. They're really tedious because of the tiny little the sprinkles, but like they're so cute. Like I love them. I like making cute stuff. There are some female glass blowers. Obviously, we're not the only ones. But it is a very male dominated industry, and most of the boys make stuff that look like boys make it and stuff. It just looks very like line work and boys and the colors they put together and they don't maybe boys, you know what I mean? It just looks like boys. Not knocking it, just that's just like that's what it looks like. So I like having glass that it's obvious, I think, that a woman made it, that it's like more feminine. It is sort of like more youthful, but like I'm not gearing obviously like, my glass toward children specifically. It's glass, but it's like maybe healing part of my childhood with these sort of whimsical designs. I also like raised a child the whole time. Like no matter how old I am, I dress and feel like I'm a teenager. Like look at my walls, look at what I have on them. Like I'm not I'm not a grown up kind of grown up, So I think that like I will remain sort of in this youthful state in my mind forever. So I would imagine that my art will as well. I feel like this weird mix of like a grandma and a teenager, if that makes sense. As far as like what I like to do in my style.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think that your work has drawn in the kind of people that you want to draw in, or do you find that you've gotten negative feedback from people on your work because it's girly?
I mean, not to my face, at least, you know? Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know, it's art. I don't have that many people stopping by to say bad things. I feel like they just maybe not, I don't know. My Instagram page got 27,000 views last month, but my numbers don't reflect that. It just showed me that. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of views. People aren't saying much when they come by comparatively. So, I think that's probably a result of me not keeping up with being an influencer and like not keeping up with those algorithms, not blowing glass full time, not really posting. But that may be reflected, in a male dominated industry with people coming to look and not necessarily, I'm not showing interactions of 27,000 views.
Yeah, how do you feel about being in a male-dominated industry? Do you feel like you've always been treated equally in res
No, I've never been treated equally.
do you feel
That's
like
it's
the
we have there's
inequality has been really.
it's been pretty stark, yeah, but I feel like it's pretty stark everywhere. So I
Mhm,
don't really have, I mean, this has been 16 years of my life. I don't have a lot to compare it to.
mhm,
Um, when I was younger, I feel like I was less aware. So if that was happening where I was working, I just wasn't noticing it because I wasn't noticing those things, Um, I don't, I don't know. I think when I think about like, what if I was even in a different part of glass, like with the bead ladies, right? Because that's not male dominated. That sounds nice. Maybe I should, I don't know how lucrative that is, but maybe that's something, maybe whew, little beads and I hang out with little bead ladies. I love that. That sounds lovely. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, so maybe it has been pretty prevalent. If that's my stance on it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's appropriate to regale stories of the horrors of that today, but I've got plenty of them. I could write a book about them. I felt really unsafe at times in our industry. I know that how well I do because it's social media and we are sharing ourselves has been largely without my consent, affected by what I look like. And like, that's terrible. I'm not consenting. But if I choose to not, you know how it is, you know? Yeah. So, and the men don't have to deal with that in our industry the same way. Like you've seen the memes with the, um, I'm not a homeless bus, whatever it is, the Simpson one, you know what I mean? So that's not an issue for them. And that's prevalent, but I think that's prevalent everywhere. I think maybe more professional industries like men should maybe, shower more and stuff, but I don't think they're held to the same standard, that women are in general. I heard some statistic recently that like women who wear makeup in the office like place like make 20 to 30% more than women who like don't. I'm not surprised. I can't like speak to the validity of that statistic either, but it's like I just think it's kind of prevalent everywhere. I don't know what it's like in other male dominated industries. I'd be interesting to like talk to women who are welders, women who are plumbers. I'm wondering if it's like the same or different in communities that aren't art based.
Let's say that a woman is listening. What would you tell a woman? Pretend you're talking to your kid that
Okay.
a woman that is presenting as a woman.
Yep.
How would you tell them to manage the feelings that come with what you just described? Like being in an industry that's male dominated, do you how do you manage those feelings? Do you just kind of let it roll off? Do you like let it out and talk about it and then try to move on? Do you like how do we deal with these feelings?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure I'm really good at it, to be honest. I don't think that there is like, I mean, that's like, so how do we deal with abuse? Right.
I know it's not fair to ask. I know it's not fair to ask, but I
Yeah.
just,
No, but I mean, but I mean, realistically, it's like that's what we're asking. Like, so what do we do when we are so incredibly abused? Because that's what it is. Even if it's just abused by a system, made up of lots of different parts.
like
And
what do you know?
yeah, I mean, it's important to know what you're getting yourself into. I can't say that I did or I didn't. It was a long time ago. I was old enough, but I was in my 20s. I was still young. And it didn't really feel like I had another choice. I wasn't like in the driver's seat at that point in my life. Wasn't like the director of what was going on in ways that I feel like I am now. And so it wasn't really like an active choice that I felt like I was making. But if somebody were to ask me now, like to get into it as a career, I don't think I would personally recommend it to anybody, male or female. I'm just going to be honest. As a hobby, I think it's great. I think that's lovely. But like as a career, the feast or famine that I mean the feast is feels amazing. Like it feels amazing to be able to buy whatever you want when those times come, within reason, but it also feels amazing to be like people like my work? No way. Like it feels really good. Don't get me wrong, like that part was really nice. But the I mean, I guess if you have like a trust fund and you don't have children, go for it. But like if you have a family to take care of, this wouldn't be my first choice. I had really special circumstances that made it make sense for me. And I had to be really creative. Like one of the places that we lived in Colorado, I worked for it, but I had a work trade program for where we live. I was the caretaker of a huge property because the owner was gone most of the year and she had tons of animals and that's why we were able to live there. I was in school full time. Like I had to get really creative to be able to have the lifestyle that we did. Um, and so I definitely traded like security for experience. And I don't know if I would go back and do it differently, but I don't necessarily know that that's what I would recommend to someone.
Okay, so we're not recommending glass as a full-time job. Or
Me
a
personally,
money
I'm not.
maker. I mean, I'm right here with you. But
Yeah,
let's pretend that somebody has a maybe slightly soul-sucking 9 to 5, and they have enough money that they're doing glass for fun on the side.
that sounds
What
amazing.
would you recommend to them to, like, start getting inspired? Like, what would you recommend to people that are able to do glass for fun?
I would recommend watching. I would recommend watching people work. Like there's so much that you can if they're willing to answer, right? You can ask the right questions occasionally without interrupting too much. But like you can also just by watching people's hands, that was something actually that I learned more than anything else from in the beginning was watching people's hands. Not even, I mean, obviously wearing the shades, right? But watching what people's hands were doing in the flame rather than watching what was happening in the actual flame. It was like my brain like burned some muscle memory into that. And then just like watching people do it and then seeing what comes out of the kiln, seeing what they're actually making, it is amazing. Like glass is phenomenal. What an incredible, form of art. There's literally no ceiling. You could do so many things with it. It's really, really therapeutic. It's really, really phenomenal. And I feel like if you're doing it as a hobby, you're not immersing yourself in the boys' world of trying to sell your glass in the borosilicate industry. Like you're just enjoying yourself. You don't even have to know that that misogyny exists.
Truce. Truce.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a problem with glass itself. I didn't like playing those games, you know?
Do you okay, so we kind of went through most of my questions or all my basic questions. I don't know if you want to go into final thoughts or words of wisdom, or if you have more things that you want to talk about, or maybe you want to talk about like food and stuff too, because I know that's a big part of you, you know? You
Yeah,
could
it's huge. Yeah, it's huge. Absolutely. Um, so if you have listened this far and at this point you do want to do glass as a career, I actually have some good advice for that. I think that the only reason that I got as far as I did, I mean, obviously there was a perfect storm of factors here, but something that was really important for me. Um, I don't know what his real name is. I only know his Facebook name. His name is Jeff's Pieces, and he lives in upstate New York, and he's a sweetheart. And I remember one day we had before Bacon Face was known or a thing or whatever. I was, I think, in my own shop at that point though. And we had a DM one day and he was just being encouraging and saying nice things to me. And he gave me some advice and he said to treat this like it was a school project. He said, treat it seriously. He said, people are generally pretty open and kind. He said, message people, look at their work, message people whose work you really like, um, and and ask them what advice they would give somebody starting out, or ask them what advice they would give to themselves when they were starting out if they knew better, or however you want to phrase it. Keep a notebook and like write it down, take notes, figure out how to model your business after people who are successful as well as your like artwork, not like copying their style per se, but like their advice on like how they came up with things, how they search for creativity, like just like a number of things. Anything you could think to ask somebody who's doing something that you find admirable. He said that a lot of people get stuck in like being jealous when other people are successful, right? Or are doing good things. And he said that's exactly how, and that's luckily, that's not something that I really have struggled with. Like, I'm not to say that I've never experienced jealousy, but not with like negative feelings toward the other person. More like, oh, I wish I had that. That's cool that they do. Like more like curious, right? But like he just explained that those feelings of feeling negativity towards somebody because they're more successful than you in your industry. He's like, it only holds people back. He was like, if somebody else is doing it, that means that you could too. Like straight up. Like if they could do it, you could do it. We're all people, you know? So obviously we're born with different skill sets, but or capabilities, or like Steve Bates is like he's ridiculously good and I could never do what he does, but I could still do something. So that was really important for me. Like understanding that the attitude that you go into it with is super important, but also like asking people who are successful for advice and specific questions and like literally writing it down, coming up with a plan and then just like following it, like treating it like it's important.
Perfect.
The food stuff, I got really sick, after becoming a glass blower. I suppose I probably had some of this before, but it didn't blow up on me until I was, full-time glass supporting a family on my little Red Max. Certainly probably overworked, and I got really chronically ill and I was basically dying. And so me figuring out, what was happening and how to fix it through, like, diet and lifestyle change is what saved my life. And I changed everything about my life except for glass, even though I discovered that I'm allergic to both silica dust and UV exposure. So that's lovely. But because I didn't want to give up glass, and I also didn't know how to do anything else at that point, and I just didn't feel like I had room to pivot at that point in my life, I drastically changed what I ate in order to save my life and continue to be a glass blower. And in doing so, flavor is just like so important to me. So I had to figure out how to make everything taste just as good, if not better, without the ingredients that were making me sick. And that's become like a big labor of love for me, a huge passion. And it definitely it takes up a lot of my time. I've had and energy and attention. I've had a lot of people, and my food is delicious. Like, I'm not humble about this at all. I'm probably better at food than I am at anything else. I've had a lot of people tell me that they would join my cult if it meant that they could eat my food. Like, I mean, it's really, really good. And I've had a lot of people tell me that I should do it professionally. And first of all, I'm terrified. I don't know anything about being a professional food person. I just know about cooking for people I love, so I don't know how to make that like work, like timing. I'm not good at the pressure and the timing thing, right? But also I feel like I wouldn't enjoy it anymore if I had to capitalize it. And I also feel like it's too special to let anyone have access with money. I don't know if that sounds terrible, but like I want to gift it to only who I want to gift it to. Yep.
Love that. Love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Can we do one more little bit of recording? Can you tell everyone where to find you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Glass Happy. All one word, no dots or dashes or anything like that. Just at Glass Happy.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And my Etsy is linked there as well. I have some pendants that are available.
Thank you so much for listening to Shaping Stories. If you like our podcast, please make sure to follow on whatever platform you're listening on. We are always grateful for your reviews to help other artists find us. You can find us on Shaping Stories Pod on Facebook and Instagram. And please make sure to support this artist that we interviewed today. It's a lot of guts to come on here, and we appreciate them being vulnerable and sharing, and especially for their very valuable time. If you know somebody that might like to be interviewed, or you might like to be interviewed yourself, I would love that. Please send an email over to me to dom@terrapinglass.com. I really look forward to seeing you, and I can't wait to continue with this project.